You've probably filled out a dozen surveys in your life, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what happens after you click submit? How do your simple answers turn into those slick charts and big headlines we see all the time? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on all of it. We're decoding the entire process, right from the very first question to the final powerful conclusion.
So here's the game plan. We're going to break this down into 5 key steps. First, we'll figure out the why, the core question that started the whole thing. Then, we'll look at the blueprint researchers use to organize all the answers. After that, we'll see how those words and opinions get turned into numbers. Next up, the fun part, crafting a visual story with charts. And finally, we'll get to the real heart of it. What's the ultimate point of all this work?
All right, let's start at square one. It's super important to remember that behind every single chart, every statistic you see, every single research project out there, it all starts with one simple thing. A question that someone desperately needs an answer to.
And this brings us to a really big challenge, right? How do you actually measure something like an opinion or an experience? You can't exactly use a ruler to measure someone's interest or a bathroom scale for their opinion. And that's the giant puzzle that statistical research is built to solve.
Okay, so check this out. This quote is from a real survey, and it gives us our mission. The goal was, and I'm quoting here, to get feedback on the use of Malay language in PowerPoint teaching aids among teacher trainees. So, boom, right there. That's their core question. They want to know how student teachers in Malaysia feel about using Malay in their PowerPoints.
So for the rest of our time here, this Malaysian survey is going to be our guide. It's our real-world case study. By following its tracks, we're going to see exactly how researchers make that leap from a simple question to a truly meaningful answer.
Okay, so we've got our question locked in. But now what? Well, before we can even think about analyzing anything, we need a blueprint for the answers. We've got to have a system to sort and classify all that data that's about to come flooding in. Otherwise, it's just chaos.
And that system has a name. It's called a scale of measurement. The best way to think about it is like the grammar of data. Seriously, it's a set of rules that tells us how to handle the answers we get. We're just going to focus on the 2 most common types, the ones you'll see in pretty much any survey, including our case study.
First up, we have what's called the nominal scale. The key word to remember here is nominal. It literally comes from the Latin word for name. All we're doing is putting answers into named boxes or categories. And here's the crucial part. These boxes have no rank, no order. One isn't better or higher than another. Their only job is to group stuff that's alike.
And this is a perfect example from our survey. The question is just asking for gender, gentina. The options are lelaki, male, and perempuan, female. See? They're just labels. They're distinct categories, but there's no rank. One isn't higher or better than the other. They're just different buckets to put the answers in. Simple as that. That's nominal data.
All right, next we level up to the ordinal scale. And if nominal was about the name, ordinal is all about the order. We're still using named categories, but now, and this is the big difference, they have a meaningful rank. It's a huge step up because now we can see not just what people chose, but also the relative weight or value of their choice. Here's another great example straight from our survey. It's asking about minat terhadap bahasa Melayu, or interest in the Malay language. And just look at the options. You instinctively know that minat, interested, is more than kurang minat, less interested, which is definitely more than tidak minat, not interested. That built-in hierarchy, that ranking, that's exactly what makes this ordinal data.
And you know what? Our survey uses a really powerful and super common tool for this. It's that 5-point scale you've seen a million times, where 1 is sangat tidak setuju, strongly disagree, and 5 is sangat setuju, strongly agree. This is a classic example of an ordinal scale. It lets researchers measure not just if you agree, but the intensity of your agreement. It's so popular because it gives them a way richer picture than a simple yes or no ever could.
All right, so the survey's closed, the answers are all in, and we know how to classify them. What's next? Well, now comes the challenge. We have to somehow take what could be hundreds of individual responses and boil them all down into one simple, coherent summary. So, how on earth do we do that? We use a set of tools with a kind of fancy name, descriptive statistics. But don't let the name scare you. They have one really simple job, to describe what the data is saying. That's it. It's all about taking that big, chaotic pile of answers and tidying it up into something we can actually understand.
And the most basic fundamental tool for doing this is something called a frequency table. It's built in just 3 simple steps. First, you list out all the possible answer categories. Second, you just count. You tally up how many people picked each answer. That's the frequency. And third, you do a little math and figure out the percentage for each one.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. This table, taken from our source material, shows the distribution of respondents by race. And just like that, what was 100 separate answers is now perfectly organized. You can see instantly that 55 people, or 55%, were Mali. All that chaos from the individual surveys, it's now clean, orderly information.
Okay, so that table is awesome for getting the exact details. But let's be real. Our brains are visual creatures. We love pictures. And this is where the magic really starts to happen. The next step is taking that organized data and turning it into a visual story that just clicks. Think about it. A good chart can tell you the main point of the story in like a single glance. It cuts right through the noise. So let's do that right now. Let's take that same data from our table and bring it to life. First up, the classic bar chart. Now, what's the first thing you notice? Your eyes go right to that tallest bar, don't they? You don't even have to read the numbers to see that the Malay group is the biggest, followed by the Chinese and then the Indian group. The different lengths of the bars tell a really powerful story about comparison, instantly. Okay, now let's take that exact same data and look at it in a donut chart. Notice how the story kind of shifts? Now, instead of just comparing the groups against each other, the real strength here is showing proportion, how each piece relates to the whole. You can immediately see how much of the total pie each group represents. It's perfect for understanding the makeup of the entire group. So here's the big takeaway from this. The type of chart you pick actually shapes the story you tell. If your main point is, hey, which group is the biggest, the bar chart practically screams the answer at you. But if your point is more like, how does this break down as a percentage of the whole, then the donut chart is your hero. So remember, choosing the right visual isn't just about making things look pretty. It's about making your point crystal clear.
Wow, okay. So we've gone all the way from a kind of fuzzy question to a super clear visual story. And that brings us to our final and honestly most important section. Why do we even do all this? What's the ultimate point?
Let's just quickly retrace our steps. It all kicks off with one focused question. That question shapes the survey, making sure it uses the right scales. Then the answers come in, get counted up, and organized into tables. Those tables get a makeover into charts that let us see the patterns. And finally, we look at those patterns to find the answer to our original question. But here's the thing. Getting the answer isn't the end of the road. It's the starting line for making a decision, taking action, or just having a much deeper understanding. Because this whole process, it isn't just for dusty academic papers. It's how smart business decisions get made. It's how better products are created. It's how we understand what people are thinking. We are swimming in data every single day. It's in the news, it's at work, it's on your social media feed. So the real takeaway for you is this. Now that you know how the sausage gets made, you can be a much smarter, more critical reader of information. The next time a chart pops up on your screen, I want you to pause for a second, look a little closer, and ask yourself, what story is this data really trying to tell me?